Welcome to the Small Town Western New York Companion Podcast, where I spend some time in conversation with the people who live, work, and play in some of the other great towns in Western New York. All right, Joyce. So, as we were saying before we started recording, so the back patio area, because we had done the preliminary podcast with you last year for a few minutes, and I wanted to touch bases with you about this on this podcast for sure. So how did that end up going? Because there were so many people that I saw that were just loving that thing.
Oh, it went very well. Very, very well. We, every nice day that we had, we opened up, and people came, and they really loved it. It wasn't even totally finished. We are still doing a little bit of work out there, but it's really been taken off. We actually opened up a couple of days last week when we had the beautiful weather, and people right away came out.
Well, I think that's kind of what it is. It's like that with any business. I mean, you just have to get that established, that's kind of like what your MO is now. I mean, I was there once towards the evening. You guys had the lights, I believe, on too, right? The Christmas lights, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we just actually finished installing the electric today for the patio, so we will have the lights out there going, and
that's awesome.
The next, time we open up the patio again. So yeah, it's very exciting.
Whose idea was that actually? Was that your brainchild or was it your husband's?
Both my husband and I.
Yeah.
We saw what a beautiful backyard area we had, and we said, a nice patio out here. Everybody loves to sit outside in the summer and enjoy it. It's so short-lived in our area.
Right.
And it would also give us the extra seating, too. And, a lot of people were calling and saying, do you have outside seating? And so we said, we got to do it. So.
Yeah, and I didn't even think about that too, but right, because you're just increasing your capacity by how many people. You must be able to fit like 20 or 30 on that patio, correct?
Oh, more than that, actually. It's a good-sized patio, and I actually ended up a little bigger than what we anticipated, but that's a good thing. Right.
That's all. Well, and it kind of future-proofs it, right?
Yeah,
that's what you want. So, so for this year, have you guys added any new menu items or anything, or?
We haven't really changed our menu too much. Today we're always offering new features, new different dishes all the time, just as they come to us, and different things, different options.
Sure.
We put them actually on the menu, but we definitely always offer a lot of different dishes.
Oh, that's great, man. I've sent at least half a dozen couples there this year. So, and the ones that I've talked to, which is about half of them, just absolutely loved it. So, I mean, you can't go wrong with the place. I mean, the way that you guys did the interior and now what you're doing to the exterior, I think that it's just a beautiful, you guys have stewarded that place in such a beautiful way, and you put so much care and love into it. I think I told you last time we talked, I had been in there when I was younger, and that was obviously when you guys hadn't owned it. And when I came back in last year, I was like, wow, it's just...
It was quite a transformation.
Oh, I'm sure. How long did that all take? I mean, was that done over the course of...
It took us a full year to renovate it.
Wow. So you weren't open during the renovation, right?
No, not at all. We looked at the place, and we talked to the previous owners, and we made a deal with them that, we were going to put some sweat equity into it, and wanted to lease it for the beginning, and then we would purchase it from them. And so we started working on it, and thinking it just needed a quick facelift, but it needed a lot more than a facelift. And once we got into it, we were full into it.
Yeah, it happened. So we had our place in East Aurora next to the middle school, and when we started renovating that, it was the same thing. Anybody I know, my brother-in-law just did his place in South Buffalo about a year and a half ago, and it's the same thing. I think once you start renovating, you know what you're getting into, but you kind of don't.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And you just think you're only going to do this one thing, and then all of a sudden it turns into something else and something else. And well, what if we do this? And oh yeah, I like that. And before you know it, all the walls are opened up, the ceilings down, the floors are up. But it was well worth it in the long run, because we definitely made the building a lot better.
Oh my gosh, the when you walk, it just envelops you. When you walk in, it's just this beautiful feel. The vibe is just perfect for it. And it's funny too, because when you're renovating, it's no different than doing your porch too. The back patio. When you're doing it, you're like, what the heck? We're doing it, so let's do it, right?
Yes, exactly.
Because you don't want to go back in 2 years and have to go through that again. If you're in the process, you might as well just make it the way that you feel at the time and see it through. So
yeah.
So now, have your hours changed at all this year from last year? Still the same hours?
No, we did change it a little bit. We did open up on Wednesdays, so we're open up Wednesdays. We open at noon to 8 o'clock. Thursday, Friday, noon to 8 o'clock. And then Friday, we open at noon, and we go to about 8:30, 9 o'clock. We're actually probably going to increase those hours more as the summer comes along.
Right.
And Saturday, we're 3:30 to 9 o'clock.
Wow.
So,
okay. And you guys have a full bar. We should mention that too. Yep.
yeah, absolutely.
Now, and the way that you guys have it too is great, because you walk right into that bar area, but it's still kind of connected to the restaurant there. And now, as far as parties go, do you guys rent out that? Because you got that back room there. Is that something that you guys will like exclusively rent out for, like an anniversary or a birthday or something?
Yep.
Do you ever? Okay. And
yeah, what we do is we're closed on Sundays right now, so we book private parties on Sundays. So you can come in, you can book the whole place on a Sunday. Sometimes on an early Saturday, because we don't open till 3:30 right now.
Right.
You can book something early on a Saturday, like a bridal shower, baby shower, stuff like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, and that'll help too. So, having the exterior now, having the outside like that, it will really help facilitate like summer events too, right? I mean, for people
definitely.
that because you can have an indoor-outdoor type of situation as well. So, and you guys are fortunate too to have that parking lot. You don't have any issues with parking there ever.
No, not at all.
And so many places are, sometimes get into a situation where they have it. My brother-in-law had the same problem. We had the same problem in our place, and you guys just have never had an issue with that. You got plenty of parking there. It's easy access. It's comfortable to drive too. And if you're coming from the city, it's a gorgeous drive, out to East Aurora. If you're coming from you can't go wrong with your location there.
Absolutely.
I think it's great. So now, you were telling me last time we talked about this ghost, and we said we would expand on it a little bit. So can you expand a little bit on that? Because I think that was a great story.
Actually, it's just a great feeling when you come in there. When we walked in there, we had a good feeling about the place and everything. My employees say a few times when we're not there and they're there, they'll hear somebody walking upstairs,
right,
or they'll hear a door or something like that. And I always just try to tell them, just explain it away. It was just the wind, or it was just,
right.
And so it got to be the joke that if we're not there, the ghost is watching over to make sure everybody's doing their job.
Right. It's an unpaid manager. Yeah, right.
Exactly.
No, well, I mean, I think, that building was what? When was that building first made?
1831.
Oh gosh! So think about that. And I did the Springbrook show, and we had talked with a historian, and so that tavern, was that open when that was the Plank Road?
Yes, it was.
Wow.
There was actually a toll booth not far from there, and when the people were bringing their goods to go into the city, the North Star was the stop over there. And when they go through the toll booth, they would actually pay per horse how much New York State.
Even back then.
Yeah, they would come in, they would bring like their cattle or their horses or whatever, and because there was the fields and everything behind it, they could feed on that. People could come in, get something to eat and drink, and then they could actually rent a room upstairs for the night and sleep. So,
and you and I had talked about that last year as well, because I was like all up on that, how it was like, it reminds me of the New Hart Inn, if you could just like make that upstairs available again. But think about like the history of that place. It's just astounding,
absolutely.
And I know when I do my show sometimes that I'm out filming, there's many times when I'll shoot a scene and I'll just really just sit for a couple seconds and just try to like really picture what it was like back then,
Yeah.
And in the Tavern is such. I mean, no, you are on the register, correct or no? The
No,
register.
it's not.
It's not. Well, okay, so that's a good thing, right? Because I mean, just trying to touch a building that's on the register is a hot mess, because
Exactly.
you got to deal with all the stipulants of that. But that so it was what 1830 you said.
1831.
1831. So now, when we did the Springbrook show, so Mr. Streif had told me that down where the Springbrook was, where Springbrook got its name, there was another inn. Is that like a tavern? Are you familiar with that?
I've heard some stories of that.
Yeah, so it was, and look at me, I'm blanking out on my own series here, but it was really interesting because in my mind's eye, that's, you don't think, okay, well, how far was that? But during that time period, you had East Aurora, then you had the North Star, and then you went all the way down to this particular tavern, and that was a pretty, it's a sizable distance if you're dealing with horses and buggies and, and goods, and especially on a plank road. And that was, I think, all that was there for any type of, hospitable like place to stay and get a bite to eat. But you guys you're not really aware of what that one was at all.
Oh, I'm not. I'm not sure what that one was.
Yeah. It was just interesting to me when we were talking to Mr. Streif about like, it was amazing that your place is still standing. And it was the first thing I thought of. I was like, all these decades later in another century, and here you are, and the building's in perfect shape still. So,
yeah.
Is the exterior? It is pretty much what it was back then, correct?
Yes, a lot of it is. When we opened up the walls inside, we took off, like they had the 1960s, 70 paneling in there.
Right.
So we thought we would take that down and just paint. Well, there was nothing behind it.
Jeez.
So, yeah, right. It's much original.
So are you guys now, after you've done all the renovations and you've done all this, are you pretty much settled in for the long haul at this point?
No, we're still working on it. We're still doing things. Yeah. We're trying to do a few improvements as we speak. The entranceway, part of the building has siding on it. Other parts of it has wood still.
Okay.
Other part still has like a totally different kind of siding. So we're still like, there's some rot in some of the wood. So we're still like getting estimates to get some work done like that. We've already changed out all the windows on the front side of the building. So, there's still a lot of 1831 stuff in there.
There's still a lot of 1831 in the place.
Yeah,
right.
That needs to be brought back up to par.
Sure.
So we're still, it's always ongoing like that, but we don't mind it. If when we get a vision of something and we see what we can improve on it.
Right.
Okay, well, let's see what we can do here. So
well, yeah,
a lot of people think that the place is a house because they've always seen it there and they always just thought it was a house. So we're actually working on getting some better signage in front and lighting and stuff like that as well, too, because even to this day, people come in and go, oh, my God, I didn't realize this place was a business.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, but that's only because I was in the restaurant business and we kind of knew all the restaurants. But, you're probably right because, it does look like a house. That's basically what an old inn was. So I never really thought about that. Yeah, I suppose that's the truth. You just you pass it every day, but you don't really know what's there. And if you don't see it busy or you see people coming in and out, right, if it's on an off day, then who's, it's none the wiser. With the exterior then, so basically you're trying to get more uniformity to it, right? Modernize, update it a little bit and then get some uniformity. It's funny that you would mention that though, but I don't really, I guess the general public wouldn't, and you would know it better, but when you pass there, you don't really see a lot of variance with the exterior, but I suppose you're right. If there's any wood rot or you just got to take care of that because before you know it, you're looking at, X amount of thousands of dollars to have something fixed that you should have fixed a couple of years ago type of thing.
Sure.
So now what's your number one seller there? Do you have a dish that's your go-to?
Very, very well known for the pierogies. Everybody comes in, they all, oh, I want your pierogies. Got to have that. Our Polska best platter.
Okay.
When we first made up the menu, my husband said to me, Tim, he goes, why don't we put some Polish food on the menu and just see how it goes?
Right.
says, "Are you sure?" And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "If it doesn't go well, we just take it off and put something else on." And I said,
Sure.
"Okay." Well, it blew everybody out of the water, and they go, "Please don't ever take this off. We come here just for that."
So now, is that your recipe or Tim's
Yes.
family? It's your recipe. So was it from your
Yes.
grandma or that type of
A
thing?
little bit of everything, kind of some of my mom's, and just over the years of cooking and stuff and self-teaching myself, just tried different ways and different styles on how to do it, and came up with one that worked and stuck with it.
I love too that Buffalo in the last, probably since I was even a kid, we've really kind of established a lot of the ethnic dishes here in a way that, and we've commercialized them, but we've done it in such a great way. Do you know what I mean? Like each
Yeah.
the ethnicities here kind of really took a shine to saying, hey, let's kind of exacerbate this thing because it's part of Buffalo. It's part of where we all come from, and that's really
Exactly.
cool that you guys do that. Do you have other Polish items on the menu?
Oh, we do. We
Yeah.
do gołąbki, we do kapusta, we do Polish sausage.
See, I don't know
we do
any of that.
sausage.
I'm Italian, so well,
Yeah.
what are some of those? Can you describe some of them?
Gołąbki is a stuffed cabbage roll. It's got the ground beef with the rice in it.
Oh, I've
and
had those. They're delicious.
Yes, they're very good. People just love them. Our pierogies, we make them a farmer's cheese with green onion, and we do a potato cheddar, and we also do a sauerkraut and onion one.
Oh, that's
And
perfect.
like I said, it's ongoing daily. We do homemade noodles on the menu that we fry up in butter, and then we top it with mozzarella cheese and broil it off.
Oh, that's so
they're
good.
just a hit.
Yeah, and the thing is, and you know as well as I do, and you're making them constantly, homemade noodles, I don't care that it's never going to be equaled. I don't care where you get it, how you get it. If it's homemade in the restaurant, it's incredible, right? And especially when you fry it off like that and you get that caramelized, those little caramelized bits, and with the cheese, that's
Making me hungry.
I'm getting hungry too, man. But that's awesome. So is that kind of like so that's a calling card then for you guys,
Yes.
for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. And then how about like any like steaks or like ribs or?
We do a premium pork chop, and we grill it. And I had no intention of putting a pork chop on the menu because pork chops can be sometimes drier and
They're super hard to, right.
Right. And I found this premium pork product, and I grilled it up, and we tried it, and it was so tender and so juicy. I was like, we need to put this on.
Wow.
And we have people that travel from 3 towns away just to come for those.
Wow.
And once they've tried it, and they always, when they're there and they're leaving, they'll see people coming in. You got to have the pork chop.
Well, because you don't get it out much, and when you do, it is. I've had when I was living in California, there was a couple places that I would get pork chops, but they're hard to find on a menu, and I think it's a confidence thing too. If it's on a menu, the restaurant knows what they're doing, because you're not going to offer it if and it's a hard cut to make proper. It's almost like a brisket. Right,
Exactly.
like that type of thing. You kind of got to know what you're doing, and you got to have the right product on the front end of it. So, and what else do you have there?
We do a shepherd's pie, which is made with ground beef, corn, peas, carrots, onion, celery, and a nice rich gravy, and then it's topped with fresh mashed potatoes, a little bit of cheddar cheese on top, and we bake that off. So that's a big hit as well. We also do. For like different holidays, we'll do specials, and I'll tell you, St. Patrick's Day, we blow up with our corned beef and cabbage.
You do? Yeah.
People go, "Well, we thought you were Polish, but you can cook."
Well, listen, it's all the same, right, in a way, right? It's all emanating from the same source.
Right.
And shepherds,
so,
well, go on.
like St. Patrick's Day and that whole weekend, I mean, we just bought cases and cases of corned beef and cabbage, and we slow cook it off, and we do it in a beer, and it's so tender, it falls apart, yet it's not dry. It's nice and juicy. So that's a huge hit. So we always have to gear up for that day. We also do steaks. We do a strip steak.
Mm-hmm.
Every Saturday we do prime ribs, so we roast off our own a whole prime rib, and
Wow.
we serve that. Our fish fries, we're very well known for our fish fries. All of our salads are homemade. We do homemade German potato salad, macaroni salad, potato salad. So
See,
we do
and
all
those,
of
yeah, and those salads are like, because you know the thing, you know as well as I do, and not to knock anybody, and God knows who uses them, but so much of the food that we get when we go out to eat now is pre-made from like Cisco, but when you make a homemade potato salad or a homemade macaroni salad, it's fantastic. Right. The difference, because it really like accentuates a dish as opposed to just being a side dish that you pulled out of a carton, you know, and so many restaurants do that. So you're at home making everything there. Right?
Everything, yeah. All of our soups, we make our soups every day, so they're all homemade. We have people that call the restaurant and want to know what day am I going to make cream of mushroom or beef stroganoff or kapuzniak soup. They all have their favorite.
What's kapuzniak?
That is a Polish soup.
Okay.
It consists of roasted pork, Polish sausage, potatoes, carrots, celery, onions, sauerkraut, cabbage. It's in a nice, rich, like chickeny broth.
Right.
But once you've had it, you crave it.
It sounds almost like a stew. It's like very full, right? Very rich.
Yes, very much so.
Well, you see that too in a lot of the German and the Polish dishes too, right? I mean, I think it was more, it's the climate that they had, you know, that they were dealing with. So you get a lot of these traditional, these heavy starch and heavy meat dishes. So in the soups too, you know, it's another thing. Soups are a very underrated thing. I mean, in general, like when you're thinking about going out to eat, a lot of people don't think about soups, but they're good sellers. And our place, it was the same way. I mean, it was astonishing when we started putting it on the menu, and we had never had soups when we were in Buffalo until we moved out to East Aurora. And it was like through lunch, we couldn't even keep it in stock.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And, you know, even though the weather gets warm in the summer, you think, well, people really don't want soup. But they do.
Yeah, they do. No, you're right. Yeah.
And when you really think about it, you eat everything else hot too in the summer, you know, whether it's a burger or a steak, you know, so.
Well, it's a mental image because we always have that mental image of I think of the hot broth, of a hot drink. And you know what I mean? Soup kind of has that correlation and that connotation to it. But yeah, during the summer, we were just like soup, it never stopped, honestly. We might sell a little bit more in the winter sometimes, but not really. It was a pretty steady thing. So that's great. And it's funny too with your restaurant, because having like a shepherd's pie in your tavern is such like an experience, you know, because that's like just one of those classic dishes in the classic place like yours, you know. You just get this like traditional sense.
And then all of our desserts, again, too, right now, all of our desserts that we're offering right now, they're all homemade as well. We do a homemade cheesecake. You can have it plain or with cherries. We do a peanut butter ganache.
Oh, God, are you serious?
Homemade apple crisp. With vanilla ice cream and caramel sauce. We do that.
So good.
And then we change out a few other ones. We do a mint cream pie that we do usually in the winter time. And then we'll switch that over to a lemon raspberry. So,
that sounds great.
Yeah. So we definitely, you know, we're busy working all the time.
Do you have the as a dessert chef, or is that you still again?
No, it's all of us. I've trained all the people how to do them, and we've got a couple people who've mastered certain desserts. So we always go, "You're doing it today." And
that's
the other
great.
person will go, "You do yours."
Well, you kind of vet everybody, right? Because we did the same thing, and some people just have a natural tendency towards one thing, and other people don't. So eventually, everybody kind of finds their place in the context of your restaurant, right? Like who does what and who does what better. So do you allow any creativity from any of your employees in the sense that if they bring you something like, hey, my aunt makes this great dish and she gave me the recipe?
All the time. I welcome new dishes all the time. And I challenge them all the time to get creative. Like right now, the wild ramps leeks are in season.
Okay.
And I own some property where they grow. And so I brought some in and I was like, we have to do some dishes with this. So I did a few dishes with them over the weekend, and I only it's a very small window. You only have about a month worth of, picking time with them.
Right.
So, but in the past, I've made a pasta dish that had the wild leeks in it, the mushrooms, steak, and the fresh made pasta. I've actually made the pasta out of the wild leeks as well.
Wait. So how do you do that? You made the pasta out of the leeks?
Yes, you actually incorporate the wild leeks. They're a nice, strong onion, garlicky flavor.
Yeah, no, it's got to be great. So do you emulsify them somehow, like a little bit?
Yep. We put them in the food processor, and you make almost like a pesto out of it.
Gotcha.
And then you add that right in with your eggs and your flour into your dough.
Right.
And you get a nice bright green pasta, and it's just the flavor that's in there is just amazing.
Do you know, at our restaurant, do you know what I did with the pizza? And I never told anybody this, but so long ago it doesn't matter now. But we infused our dough. So we used a gluten-free dough. We didn't advertise it, but we used a gluten-free dough. And in the context of that, because that has its own property, of course, and a lot of people would come in and be like, wow, your pizza's awesome. But I think a lot of it was attributed to the gluten-free dough, and it was how we made it as well. There was a whole technique that I was using that I stole from this guy down in Buffalo. But we infused the dough with some spices and some herbs, and I'm telling you, that little effervescent kick when you bite into it, and it kind of just shoots off into your mouth up to your olfactory, like that, because it's like that with those leeks, probably, right? It's the same thing. Like, you bite into the pasta, and it's just such a spike of beautiful, it's just unexpected, It
is. So, and the freshness that's there, it's just amazing.
That's exactly what I was alluding to. It's that freshness. When you bite into it, it's like a different thing, because pasta can be real dull. Even if it's delicious, it still doesn't really have a crack to the flavor.
Right.
But when you pop in an infusion like that, that definitely will give it. That's an interesting thing. So you basically make a leek pesto almost, let's say.
Yeah.
And then you just incorporate that in the context of the noodle dough.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
And like I said, all my other workers too, they come to me every once in a while and they'll go, here, I made this up. Why don't you try it? I did this fried rice. And I was like, this is fantastic. We got to serve this tonight with something. And, somebody else will go, what do you think about doing? And they come up with another dish. And so I welcome them all the time. We'll give it a try in the afternoon. We'll try a little sample of it and see how it comes out. And I'll say, run with it. Run with it.
That's so cool.
We usually sell out. So
well, and people love that. And there's nothing like going to a restaurant and getting something that's unexpected and it blows your mind.
Yeah.
Right. And then you'll be telling everybody about it. It's that type of thing. And that makes it really fun and interesting for you and your employees, because it was just no different. And you don't want to make the same thing every day, day in and day out.
Exactly.
It's not good for you. It's not good for the customers. You want that inspiration, even if it's a dish that every time you make it, it's beautiful. You still want that challenge, and you still want your ability to be creative in the context of what you're doing. So, and it's got to be really inspiring for your employees too, knowing that they have an open door to you if there's something that.
Oh yeah, without saying, they do. They enjoy that. Every once in a while somebody will come up and go, have you ever tried this or that? And I go, yeah, we did, and there we go.
It did not work. Yeah. Well, it's the beauty of having your own place like that, It's fun. It makes it fun.
It definitely does.
It makes it fun for your employees and for you. And then what about some other specials? Do you have nightly specials or?
Yeah, we usually have a nightly special. We'll do a sandwich special for lunch. Usually we'll, mix up some different things. We'll do like a chicken salad wrap or a specialty salad. We like to get creative with the salads, especially when the warmer weather comes around, and, infuse different flavors together to, really bring out the freshness of what's growing at that time and what's available. So, we take a lot of pride on that,
And are you guys a lot of things farm to table?
Yes, a lot of that. What we do, we cut all of our own meats in house. I get the whole pork loins and we cut that up. We roast off our beef. We get the whole beef and we roast it off and everything and slice it. So,
Joyce, that's huge, though. Yeah, that's a big deal, right?
It is. I mean, this way, we know what we're getting, and we're cutting the portion sizes. I get fresh salmon in every week, and we cut and fillet that up every week. Mm-hmm. So, it just, when I find something that's very good and it works,
right.
I stay with it.
Well, yeah, and I think so. When you do that too, the whole the magic of cutting meat and your ability to discern what's good and what's bad is so much different than getting something that's already been cut and processed and brought to you. Yeah, and the freshness too. And I'm a firm believer in the more anything's processed, the less flavor it's going to have. And it doesn't, and yes, it's a natural product meat, but if it's cut and it's been stored and it's been frozen and it's been thawed, so you guys are getting this in, you're processing it and you're cutting it there. It's only getting handled so much, and then it's getting prepared and then out to the customer.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I didn't ask you this before, and I wanted to ask you this last time, and we didn't have a chance to. But so were you always what was your inspiration behind getting the place? Was it something that were you always a cook, and then you just wanted to own a restaurant, or was it more like you wanted kind of this whole package with what you have right now with this beautiful old building that you're stewarding, and then have this great restaurant?
Well, I always loved to cook. It started out when my boys were young. Anytime we had an event with scouting or baseball or parties or anything like that, I would always cook. And then, we'd always make the food and stuff like that. And more people started coming to us and saying, hey, can you do our party? And can you cook for this event? Right. And so I just always did it. I always enjoyed doing it. And so then it got to be not only family, but family's friends and beyond that. And I had started having people call me and ask me, hey, I was at your
you started getting requests from strangers.
If you would cook for my party. And right. So we started a catering business. So we started out catering, and I worked with a couple of different restaurants to use their kitchens and that sort of thing, VFW posts and that sort of thing. And a couple of VFW posts asked us to come in and do fish fries on Fridays. So my husband and I did that. We did fish fries for the VFW posts. Wow. And we would do the events when they would book a party. They'd say, well, people want to book you for catering. So we started out doing the catering. And it started out, we needed find more of a permanent kitchen. So I knew Riley Street Station in East Aurora. Right. They didn't serve food over there. They were just a bar, but I knew she had a kitchen facility in there. So I called her up and asked her if she'd be willing to possibly let me use it. Okay. And she said, yeah, there's no equipment in here. You'd have to bring in the equipment. So we said, okay, we'll do that. So we went in there, we brought in all our equipment, and she says, well, why don't you cook some food for my patrons too? And come up with our
You kind of you knew that was going to come though, right? Because because she has this great cook, and now she's got a kitchen in her establishment.
Right. So we started doing food over there, and we were just doing fish fries on Friday, and we were only open a couple of days just for, a few hours. Well, more and more people started coming, so it was just him and I at the time. And then it started getting a little busier, so we started hiring some employees. And then before you knew it, it just started growing so massively. She ended up putting on the addition, so she put the dining room on because we were packed all the time in there. There wasn't enough room. She put the patio on after that. She fixed up the front patio, so she started investing money into her place because the food was just taking off so much. Wow. And we went from just a few hours, a couple days a week, to 7 days a week, and we had 30 employees.
Oh, my gosh. So, I didn't know you guys were... I had no idea. I didn't know any of this. So Riley Street's growth was really attributed to... because it was a good place, and it was a local place, and it's been there for a long time. But I didn't know that they didn't have food until you guys showed up.
Yeah. So we actually, my husband and I were both also working our regular jobs at the time. And my husband had left his job to, help run that a little bit more. Uh-huh. And finally, it just was really taking its toll on us for, trying to, do that.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah.
So we decided that we were just going to go back to catering, and we got another kitchen. We rented a space in Orchard Park on California Road. Okay. And set up our kitchen there. We went back to just doing catering for a while and taking a little breather. And then that's when somebody had called me up about taking a look at the North Star.
Right.
There was a gentleman that was in there that was leasing it, and he had a partner that had left, and he was struggling. He says, "Can you come down and talk to me?" So I said, "Sure." So we went down to talk to him, and I could see he was in over his head, and
Right.
he was struggling. And so before we had a chance to even really make any kind of arrangements or anything, he had called it quits.
Oh, wow.
So we knew who the owners were, and we called them up, and we says, we're wondering if you're looking to sell the property, lease the property, or whatever. And they said that they would be interested in talking to us. So we sat down, we talked to them. They were such wonderful people. It had been in Patty. It was her mom's place and her grandfather's place. So it was in her family for over 90 years.
Oh, wow.
So I'm sure it was a little hard for her to let go, but it had been sitting there empty for so long, and she knew none of her kids wanted to take it over. So she said she knew we were the right people for it. She said she could feel that. So they were so wonderful to work with. They offered us an amazing deal. We leased it for a little while, and then we purchased it off of them. And I'll tell you, it's such a great place. It makes us feel so at home and so warm when we're there.
Well, but everybody feels like that, though.
After years of being in a business, people usually get burned out on it, and they get frustrated, and it just didn't have the luster it had and stuff like that. But we still walk out of there almost every night, and we shut the lights off, and we look at each other, and I say, "I still love this place." And he said, "So do I." And we walked away happy,
That's beautiful, man. And, I come from that business. It's in my blood. It's how I was raised. And you're right. And that what you just said is so true. It's a very demanding, thankless business to most degrees. And it's vitally important that you have that you can, because that's what feeds you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like emotionally and just through your psyche, like when you walk in and you're like, wow, this place is awesome. And when you leave and knowing that too, that there's a heritage to this place that honestly, like it means a lot to a lot of people, that just having that there. I mean, it's an older historical building. It has a history, and it's never been better, honestly, right? I mean, since I've been a kid, I think what you guys have done there is just perfect, and you're going to continue improving as you go. But that's a really beautiful story, and having come from that business, I know what that's like. You're like, when you leave, to still have that feeling is incredibly valuable. It
is. It really is.
Well, and your employees probably feel the same way, right? I'm sure.
Oh, they do. They do. Most of our employees have been there since the very beginning.
Now, when you say very beginning, do you mean Riley Street?
Some of them did come from Riley Street, and they came back because she remained open after we left.
Right.
She kept the crew that I had on there. She kept most of them on there, and so some of them went their own ways, and some of them stuck around. And then some of them did come back and work for me again.
Wow.
And then, other people heard about us, came, they applied, we hired them,
right.
And we have just such a great crew. And I mean, we treat everybody there like they're our family,
Right.
And everybody has that connection. And right from the day that we opened those doors to the public, everybody came together like a family like that. And it was a strange feeling, but it was a good feeling too. I mean,
sure.
Not all workers always work well together. They fight like brothers and sisters or whatever a lot of times, but it's still, at the end of the day, everybody walks away and they're still like, we're all a big family over there.
Yeah. And listen, as well as I do, like you get into that, the restaurant is so, I was telling my doc, I had 5 bypass surgery about a year and a half ago. And I was laughing with the doctors one day because, and this is, no comparison, but to a degree, when you're slammed in a restaurant and you've been slammed for hours, and let's say you've had 2 people call in, the suppliers didn't come through on some things, you had to improv some things, you've got equipment issues, and it's one of those days when the walls are melting down, and it's about maybe the 8th hour into this, you're in triage mode.
Absolutely.
You know,
and we've done that whole song and dance quite a few times.
yeah, you're just like, you know, and you got people walking out and people are crying. You're like trying to hold it all together. The intensity of that business sometimes is just incredible. And, it's, and this isn't being a martyr to it, but sometimes there's an addictive quality to it. It's just the challenge of getting through those moments. And then when you get it done, you're like, wow, we did that. And I think that bond, it's not that it's trauma bonding, but to a degree, there's an element to that, right? Because you're in this foxhole with each other and you go through so much in a restaurant that people, even if they kind of understand it, until you've worked in it for an extended period of time and you've been through hundreds of those type of nights, you don't really know like the intensity that it can build and the bond that it can build with the people. So if you have a crew that has that element, and that's the hardest thing to build. I mean, you can't have a restaurant if you don't have a good crew.
Exactly.
It'd be you and Tim. And then eventually you and Tim would be like, Tim, you guys are just kill yourselves because you can't do it with just two people.
Right.
So you need those people. And that's a testament, too, to you guys that you've had people for that long.
Oh, it is. It really is. And, like I said, like the majority of our people have been there. Like, my main cook in the kitchen right now, he came in when he just turned 16 and he was our dishwasher.
Oh, get out of here.
And he was doing dishes and we were short staffed the one day and I was yelling to him. I says, you need to come in here and help us. We'll show you what to do. And I was in a panic and I just showed him what to do. And I had him do a couple extra things. I says, now go get me this and work on this. This is how you do it. And after the shift was over, I said, do you want to work in the kitchen? And he's like, yeah, he goes, I kind of liked it. It was fun.
Yeah, so many people get that, though.
We moved him into the kitchen, and he's worked his way right up, and he's been there right by our side all the time. And the same thing with a couple of the waitresses and bartenders. They've been there since, the first day we opened, and
right.
A couple of them even before that. And, it's, and like we go to each other's parties in the summer. We do a Christmas party at the end of the year. And if somebody passes away, we go to the wakes, and everybody comes together for everybody. Everybody, they're all family now.
Yeah, and that's what makes your place. It really gives it its heart. And you when you walk into a place that's like that, you feel it. You do. I think we all feel it. And that's what you want. It's a restaurant. People, I think everything's so corporatized now that the value of what you guys bring and the other, couple thousand family run restaurants we have in Western New York, the value is immeasurable because that's what you want. When you walk into a place, there's just like this beautiful group of people that you get to know. And I'm sure you have plenty of regulars and those regulars are just an extension of that.
Well, that was the biggest thing that when we opened the restaurant, I says, I know I can cook the food. I know we can make this work. But it seemed like all these people started coming in and I didn't plan on finding all these new friendships and finding all new, I didn't plan on that. And all of a sudden these people come in and it's like, oh, how are you? And what's been going on? And, everybody, and they're there every week.
Yeah.
They come in all the time. And I guess I didn't realize how, famous it made me feel,
Well, sure. Yeah.
Were coming in to see us. And, we always made it a point to go out and talk to our guests, ask them how was everything, be honest with us, was everything okay?
Sure.
And we always talk, and we've just ended up making these friendships and these bonds with them, and now they come in all the time and we share stories about their kids and our kids, and
oh, that's great.
It's a great feeling. It's a great feeling.
Well, it was the same thing for our, in our restaurant. People watched me from the time I was in the crib in the back room in 1968 until I was running the place in 1992 and 93. And then
that's amazing.
These people, they stopped being customers within the first year. And here we are 30 years later, and these people are just part of the fabric of your life, It
is. We used to have a gentleman that would come in every single day, sometimes 2-3 times a day.
Oh, my God.
And he would call, and it would be like 11 o'clock, and
Right.
he'd say, North Star Tavern, you're supposed to be open, your door's not unlocked. And he would leave a message. And the one day he walked around to the back door where the employees came in, and he come walking through the kitchen.
Oh my God.
And I said, Richard, you know the rule. If you come in the kitchen, you got to put an apron.
Yeah, you get to work.
He picked up the apron and he goes, okay, what do you want me to do, boss? And it was so funny. It was, and we have a lot of customers like that. Like Tim and I, a lot of times, especially on a Saturday night after the long day and we've worked, the whole week, we like to sit down and have a nice dinner together after, every service is over. So we'll sit down. And we have the customers come up to us and they'll go, how is everything tonight? Did you enjoy your meal? And they always like to pull our chains.
Right.
So much fun.
Well, and customers, that's what I was alluding to. Like they become an extended part of your family there. And it's not even like their expectation isn't just about the food any longer. It's about seeing you.
Exactly.
It's so funny how that like happens. And it does happen. Sometimes you don't even realize it. And I don't think I really appreciated it until I started running the restaurant. Do you know what I mean? Like how because you're just like, my God, these people have known me since I was in diapers, and then they're still coming in like every other week. And I don't know. I just never really thought of them as customers when I was working like with my parents. When I started running it, you're like, this is a customer. This isn't like Joe or Don, or Mary. This is like, I don't know. It's a different relationship. That's all. And you do get the people that like end up walking into the kitchen,
Oh yeah.
And chit-chatting with you while you're working, but they're part of your family. So I think that's amazing.
We found it too that when you're yourself around your customers and you be yourself around them and you're upfront and honest with them about, whatever is going on or happening, they can appreciate it. We're all human. We all screw up from time to time. So if something happens, I go right out and I'll tell them, yep, that one's on me. So sorry, we ran out or, whatever the issue might be, and they can appreciate that. Sometimes things happen with a takeout. Somebody gives somebody the wrong order and we'll get a phone call that I didn't get the right food. And Tim will say, what did you order? And he'll call and he goes, what's your address? I'm bringing it to you. So we'll order over and he'll jump in the car and he'll drive it out to them.
Yeah, the authenticity. Well, and see, that's how my parents raised me too, and I applied that to this business and any other business that I ran. And I never really, again, I don't think we appreciate things until we have some perspective on them. And we're raised in a society sometimes where people are just overly like professional. Do you know what I mean? They're just, you're not authentic. And I wasn't raised around that. I was raised around just as real and as raw as you could get. So whether it was good or bad or indifferent, you're just wearing your heart on your sleeve. And, and people treat you like a human being then because they know that you're giving them that same courtesy,
Oh, absolutely.
And
absolutely.
the communication is so much different that way. And that, so if you have a problem, the second we would have managers that would come in and they might have come in from a place that taught them differently. And they were always like a little shell shocked where like, just be because they're like, well, should I? I was like, no, you tell them what happened. You don't sugarcoat it. You just be real and honest with them because there's no need to do anything else. But they came from these environments where everything was kind of like, sidelined and shoved out and made excuses for it. And I was like, there's no excuses there,
That's right.
And people respond to that. So that's awesome, man. Well, that's why you guys have a great place and the future's like super bright for you guys. And you guys are going to be there until you don't want to be there anymore. And hopefully you can get it to somebody else who can steward it like you guys have.
Hoping all the grandkids could take interest. I've already brought in a couple of my grandsons to do dishes a few times and they weren't happy about it.
Well, hey,
they did like getting paid, but they weren't happy about having to do dishes. And I says, well, if you do really good, you work your way up in the kitchen. I says, then you can be the next guy that's on that line or serving the people or making the drinks or whatever it is you like to do. I says, just keep that in the back of your mind, Yeah,
because that's the best. Well, listen, you go in there. I mean, we're breaking all type of New York State labor laws, but I would go in there when I was like 6 or 7. I had to clean under the dumpsters on Saturdays. Then I had to clean the back floor. Then I had to clean the bathrooms. And then eventually I started like weighing the steak. We had these big like chopped ribeye for the steak subs. It was a 50-pounder. It was frozen, and it would would take me hours to weigh this out, but I have to do that all day. But that's how you start. But that type of fundamental thing when you're a kid is really important, and that's awesome that you're doing that with them.
It is. And I always, whenever we're doing anything, whether they're at my house or wherever we are, I always try to give them a little bit of, like a lesson or, make them aware of what, how we do things or whatever,
Sure.
And they always come up to me and they'll say, hey, Nana, what about this recipe? What if we took this, and this, and they'll tell me different things. And I go, how about we try that?
Right. Oh, that's great.
Time we get together, I'll have them try it and, see what they like. And I just try to always, give them a little, teach them a little bit about something. Like, and because always remember, if you're going to do this or that, like my one grandson, from the time he could barely talk, he always used to come up to me. He goes, remember, Nana, always season your food. I taught him that from the very beginning, and he's never forgotten it.
Well, but see, I learned to cook from my grandma. And it was the same type of thing, and then my parents as well. But my grandmother was a huge influence on me like that. And she did the same thing with me. She'd instill that like sense of knowledge, and it empowers the kids, and cooking is one fundamental life skill that so many kids just don't know how to do anymore. They're so intimidated by it because everything's pre-made and prepared and they shove it in the microwave and they eat. But when you can teach a kid to cook, it changes their lives.
It does. It really does. And they enjoy doing it too then,
Well, and they see the creativity and the fun behind it. They're just not intimidated. Because a lot of people, even as adults, are petrified to cook. And I was like, what's the worst thing that can happen? You screw it up.
Exactly. Like, oh, I can't do this. Don't worry about it. It's all fine. Whatever comes out, comes out. I go, even if you make a mistake, sometimes some of the best dishes came out from a mistake. You never know.
100%. Yep. Well, that's what happened with our dough. With the whole infusion story. Yeah, it was an accident. So, and I was like, man, this is fantastic. And then I refined it, and then that's the way it went. But yeah, that's what it's all about. That's so cool, though. So you do have another generation kind of sneaking in there now. So slowly coming up. How many grandkids do you have, by the way?
I have 5 grandkids.
Nice. And then 2 of them
range from 2 years old up to going to be 16 almost.
Nice. And so the 2 eldest ones are kind of then coming into the place then.
A little bit. But I told them, I said, you do what you want to do first. This is still going to be here. You find something else you want to do better, you go do it. But when I need you to dishwash, you got to come in.
Yeah. Well, it's nice. And as I get a little older, they'll appreciate it. And they've been around. So how long have you guys been there?
It's been 7.5 years that we've been open.
Wow. Congratulations. You passed the 5-year. So.
Yep. We did that. So it's always fun. It's always exciting.
That's awesome. And but your history in the business goes way back. So, the other nice thing that I think you guys did, which a lot of people don't do, is you had such a sound, fundamental knowledge of everything before you went there, before you got involved in that. You guys were well established. You already knew what you were doing, and you didn't go through that period of like, because it's jarring and people don't realize what it takes. And you guys already knew, and because you guys had been doing it, and you had your experience with Riley Street too. So
exactly,
it kind of all goes into the fold. All right. So one thing before we go, we got super tangential, but we were talking about specials, and I interjected, and I'm sorry, but we were talking about your specials, and then we went totally off. Is there any other thing you want to mention about your specials?
No, just that we have them often. We try to get very creative with them. We've had a few people come to us a few times and say, hey, have you ever thought about having lobster? And I said, I don't really have a calling for it, but, when we have a special day or something like that, we'll do it. So we did it last Mother's Day. We did a steak and lobster, and I believe it was on New Year's we did it. And then just, a lot of times, people ask for something, and I says, if I can make it possible, absolutely, I'll do it all the time. We cater outside, we do drop-off caterings as well.
Right.
And I have sort of a menu online that desperately needs to be updated. But I actually tell people when I'm talking to them on the phone, I says, if there's something you don't see on my menu, ask me about it. More than likely, I do make it or can make it, And most of the time I do, and they'll give me an idea sometimes of what they want, so I'll suggest different things to them as well. I says, they'll say, well, we had this one time and we really liked it. And I says, well, I do, this sort of a dish, and, it'll be something similar. And they're like, yeah, that's what we're looking for. So.
Well, see, but that's your strength. Yeah, well, that's your strength, though, too, because you probably, you've made thousands of dishes over the course of your career.
Oh, sure.
So you have such a knowledge base, which is a huge strength. That's what I was saying, too. You didn't go into this and you're like, okay, I've done this for other people and I know how to make this, that, and the other thing, but now I'm going to add what we have here, but I don't know. You have such a good, sound, fundamental knowledge of cooking, and then you've made so much over the years that really is a huge strength to your business, because you can do that. Somebody says, I had this dish and I was in this German restaurant. You're like, oh, yeah, I've done that. Or even if you didn't, you'll still know how to make it.
Oh, yeah. If somebody gives me that challenge and they'll say, like, my grandmother used to make this whatever. And I'm like, really? What does that entail? And I get some information, and then before you know it, I'm back in the kitchen making it.
Right. Well,
and I'm trying to create it.
Yeah, well, and you love it, though, right?
I do.
And that's how you know you found your passion, I think, right? Yeah. Because you're stewarding this beautiful business, this beautiful building, and you love what you do. You guys have a great relationship. And listen, the best businesses are husband and wife businesses, right?
Oh, yeah.
They really are. It's what I grew up with, too. It's just, you're probably two sides of the same coin, right?
Oh, yeah. Sometimes they'll put the two of us in the kitchen together, and they'll go, uh-oh. How long you been married?
Here we go.
43 years.
Oh my gosh,
so
you 43. Wow.
And they'll tease us. They'll go, oh boy, who's going to take who out tonight? And we laugh about it all the time, But it's all good. We have a good time. So the employees will say, don't make us fire you. And I'm like, all right.
Well, yeah. Well, and they know you guys. So is there anything else you want to add?
No, just let the people come in, and we'll do the best we can to serve them, make them good food, make them feel welcomed at home. We've got great cocktails. We do parties. We do food. We're there for everybody. We want everybody to enjoy it, walk away, feel good, bring their kids next time, bring friends next time, stick around a little longer. Patio is going to be open. We've got 2 fire pits out there, so on those cooler nights in the summer, enjoy yourself by the fire, have a sip on a cocktail, and just enjoy. That's
awesome. Well, you guys are doing an amazing, amazing job. So I hope that this will be here when I have kids. So
good.
All right.
Very good. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Joyce. We'll talk to you soon.
All right.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, that's about it for this episode of the Small Town Western New York Companion Podcast. Thanks for listening, and remember to support the small towns of Western New York in any way you can. They're full of great businesses and people who'd love to see you in their towns. The Small Town Western New York Companion Podcast, the TV series, is a presentation of Discovering Western New York and AAAugustine Media Co. and can be found everywhere you listen to your favorite podcasts. Thanks for listening.